Hi guys, and welcome to the 5th video in my ENB series. In this video I'm going to be showing you a Phinix Natural ENB, and I feel like this is a video I should have made a long time ago because I've actually been using this ENB for about 27 episodes of my Let's Play Skyrim series, so obviously it is an ENB that I happen to like. And as the name suggests, this is a very natural looking ENB. It's not one that really oversaturates the colours or adds a lot of cinematic effects. It just makes the game look a lot nicer, a little more realistic, without losing the Skyrim feeling. It has all the usual and expected features like ambient occlusion and the vastly improved shadows you get with ENB. It also improves the sunlight, so that sunlight has a lot more impact. It feels a lot more natural and a lot more real, slightly more cinematic without being over the top and in your face. It is not one of the ENBs where you spend a lot of time just looking at the scenery thinking, wow, that's an incredible poster moment. It just makes the game generally feel and look a lot better. Things like character's skin looks a lot more natural, that type of thing. It just, in general, it's the sort of ENB that you install and after a while you kind of forget you've got an ENB installed unless you uninstall it, unless you turn it off, and then you notice all of these horrible shadows and the light being a little unrealistic and so on. It's a very subtle ENB is probably the way I would describe it. I found the performance to be very good. I rarely drop below 60 frames a second. However, you should understand that I have upgraded my system a little since the last ENB video, so that probably is helping me keep the frame rate up as well. However, I do think this is a fairly reasonable hit to the performance. There are actually a couple of performance versions as well if you want to further increase the frame rate whilst using this ENB, but as I say, it's pretty good performance. One of the reasons it might have good performance is it doesn't use any depth of field. So the normal game has no depth of field. It works perfectly with Dynavision, so as you can see here, you can still get the depth of field effect, very low performance impact, and use this ENB at the same time. That's actually how I run it. Now the night times have been tweaked and do look a little nicer, but visibility is pretty much the same as it is in the vanilla game. You won't have any trouble navigating at night unless there's a really sort of dark storm brewing, and even then, this is one of those ENBs that really does allow nighttime play to be more or less unhindered. Now obviously, as to whether or not that is something you want is pretty much a matter of personal taste. Now the same is true of interiors to some degree. It does seem to make the interiors slightly darker, but visibility is still crystal clear. It does make interiors look a lot nicer though. They do look a lot more realistic and a lot cozier, just not dark. Now dungeons on the other hand are noticeably darker, but not hugely so. It definitely adds a lot of the creepy atmosphere you're looking for in dungeons, but it doesn't make it hard to play. Sometimes you might want to take a torch, but you probably can get away without it. It's one of those things of, you're not going to fall off the edge of a cliff whilst in a dungeon if you forget your torch, but you might miss some objects. It is a nice effect, and I can also tell you that this ENB works perfectly with night vision. So if you're using predator vision or any other type of night vision, it works perfectly with this mod. So even though the dungeons are a little darker, your night vision brighten them up for you and make playing even easier. Now of course you could be using realistic lighting overhaul or ELFX to make interiors and dungeons darker still, but if you mix both ENB and those mods, the dungeons will become dark enough that you will require a torch. They do look very good indeed, and probably that would be my preferred way of playing if I were not recording my videos to be viewed, because it does make the dungeons look great. But if you're just looking for a creepy feeling without necessarily the difficulty of playing in the dark, this ENB by itself is actually great. I would also recommend you look at another mod specifically designed for ENBs called Darker Dungeons. I will leave a link down below. And that does make the dungeons a little darker so that they're even more atmospheric while still keeping visibility at an acceptable level. However, I wouldn't use that in conjunction with the darkness patch in things like ELFX. If you're using ELFX, use the main file that changes the light sources, but not the one that makes dungeons and interiors a lot darker. I will try to show that in the installation video so you get an idea of what I mean. And finally, it affects the weather quite nicely as well. It makes rainy days seem a little gloomier and feel a little wetter actually. They look a lot better than the default game. And the same is true for snowy days as well. I mean, I wouldn't say this comes close to ENBs like Opethfeld 6, which was just incredible in those weathers. However, you know, that ENB had a huge ENB impact compared to this one. So again, it does make the weathers feel a little more realistic from my perspective. It makes me feel, well, like it is more a Nordic country. It does have an autumn or winter feel to it, which I think is very appropriate to Skyrim, but don't worry, it's not all gloom. I mean, if you go up in the mountains on a clear day, the place looks brilliant. It looks brighter than in the normal game, and in fact, you get a feeling of snow glare when you're out in the snowy plains or on a snowy mountain, which is very realistic. I can tell you, as someone living in a country that is, you know, filled with snow at this time of year, if you get a clear day and the sun is up, the snow is at times almost blinding, and it is very, very spectacular. In the end, this is an ENB I have really enjoyed trying out. I mean, my original plan was to try a different ENB every few weeks to get a feel for them, and in the end I've used this one now for several months. It has a very natural feel to it. It does not really change the game so much that I feel like I'm in a different place, but it does make the game look so much nicer. Okay guys, I think that's about it for this video. I hope I have covered everything that I need to cover. I will of course be making an installation video for this ENB, and I will try to get that up in the next couple of days and put a link down below. And of course I'm ending this video with some screenshots that you guys have been posting. So thanks for that, keep posting and I will keep using them. I am going to try out a new ENB now. And whilst I am reluctant to switch from Phinix ENB, I do want to try other ones out and then do videos on those as well. So hopefully I will have another one of these videos for you a little faster than this one appeared. I hope you guys can join me for that video, but whichever video you decide to join me on, I look forward to seeing you there. And until then, as always, have fun.